South Korea introduced bike paths in 2012 in the aim to protect the ecosystem of their four major rivers and to secure the drinking water. Needless to say, the bike paths are very well maintained, except in few places where it goes a bit rough, but can't complain. Because it's a very small country, if I compare it, it's smaller than the state of Gujarat where I was born. And to give you an idea, when I cycled 633 kilometers, I was crossing the whole country from north to south, which is from Incheon to Busan. And if I do same in India, I will barely reach home from Mumbai. So there is a bit of an advantage of being a small and less populated country. Every day is different. The landscapes change drastically. So one day when you're crossing the mountain and the other day you will be riding next to the river with trees on the side and mountains on front. And you see those pockets of settlements in middle of nowhere with painted houses and lush green farmlands anywhere you look. So when I was researching about my bikepacking trip to Korea, I realized South Korea is so much more than what media is selling us. So yeah, that's why South Korea. So this is the South Korea map for all the bike paths. So what I did was cycling from Incheon to Busan, which comes under the category of cross country trail. And if you add Andong path in this, you are doing four river trail. And then there is East Coast Trail and Western routes. And you can also do Jeju Fantasy, which is basically circling around the whole island of Jeju. So what I did was the combination of four trails, which is Naktong, Sajjay, Ara, and Hangang path.
Can you information under this number so it's not me the passport?
Certification centers are the dedicated locations where, apart from stamping your passport, you can also buy one.
Leave others.
In my case, I decided to buy at the starting of my journey, which was from Incheon. So, the government has found a way to motivate the riders. They have introduced this kind of bike passport, which you can buy from the starting point in Incheon or only at certain certification centers. For example, this is the Ara bicycle path, and they have mentioned the kilometers and the tentative hours it could take to complete this bike path. All of the bike paths are listed in the bike passport with the kilometers mentioned as well as the stamping blocks. So when you start your ride, you go from point A to point B and you will see such red booths similar to the telephone booths in England. This is where you stamp your bike passports. Each of the centers have their unique stamps and you move forward while stamping those. So what I did was Ara, Hangang, Sajjay and Nakdongang. So what I did was cross country route, which in the end gives me this golden stamp. And if I had done Endong path, I would have received 4 river stamp as well. And when you complete all of the bike routes which I mentioned earlier in the video, you get the Grand Slam stamp. I wanted to take my own bike, but the costing was coming out to be nearly same when I transported from India. Besides, I was also traveling further to Hong Kong and wanted to avoid the transport and packing and unpacking of bike. So I rented one from Bike Nara. They also keep your extra luggage, which later they can ship to Busan. I rented for 12 days and it cost me roughly around 240 US dollars, and to ship the luggage they charged 38 US dollars. So I looked into camping. I was super excited to camp. But as I was doing it in October, it tends to get very chilly and windy. So I decided to go with the motels along the way. Now, I will be honest, I never planned any of my route. I never decided where I was going to stay. I never booked any accommodation prior to my journey. So the idea was to get up at 5:30, start cycling at 6 a.m. in the morning. By the time it's 12 p.m., I used to look at my location and where do I stand. And then, according to the location, I used to figure the next town or the next to next town. So that gives me an idea how much I need to cycle further. By the time it's 2 p.m., I start approaching towards the nearest town or the accommodation that I was aiming for. On an average, I paid around 50,000 Korean won, which is 38 US dollars roughly. But then there was a bit of a trickier situation when I was approaching towards Busan. Most of the hotels are offering check-in time as like 7 p.m. I don't know if that's normal or not. So the option was either I pay the double, then I can enter early in the hotel, which is still like 4 p.m., or I wait for 3 to 4 hours, or else I just go find a different motel. So yeah, I did took the option three, but yeah. So the idea was also to find the accommodation which allows bike inside the room so that I don't have to pack and unpack the panniers every morning before I start my journey. I think this was the most fanciest room I've ever stayed. So we have a bed obviously, computer, sitting area, bathtub, TV and all. We have a separate washroom as well as we have a separate shower. Let's go. So, if you're a meat eater, you're practically in heaven. But if not, you have to be prepared, which was exactly my case. I am a vegetarian, which means no meat, no eggs, no seafood. I was carrying all of my 12 days' food with me, because of which my bike was heavy. But that being said, you will find food everywhere. You don't have to worry if you are not vegetarian. Because of its better or worse half, North Korea, Google Map doesn't work for the security reasons in South Korea. When I was planning this bike packing, I was particularly nervous for this one reason. South Korea has their own navigation system, which is Kakao and Naver, and they work extremely smooth. The only problem is that when you translate the app in English, it's still not fully translated in English. Most part of it still stays in the local language, which is Korean. Because of that, when I entered the address, most of the time it never detected where it was because I was typing in English. I used to find the location physically in the map, or I used to find the Korean name of the particular place, then copy paste over here in Kakao, and then ended up navigating. And as I was riding solo, I was nervous about internet and connectivity, but by far South Korea has some amazing internet and connectivity. I think just two places I would say the connectivity dropped, which was once in tunnel, and the other was when I was riding through the forest. But then again, it also restored pretty quickly, so I don't have any complaints over there. This is the informative part of the series, Soul to the Sun Cycling. And in the next video, I'm going to show you my journey, how I did cycling 633 kilometers in 12 beautiful days of my life. So keep watching.